Okay, so I remember I finished up yesterday saying that the Lord showed me a vision of the future, um, about who was gonna be looking over me, watching over me as I was coming to the United States. Um, so another core memory that I have is when we were just kind of like walking up hills and grassy, really tall grassy areas, and I remember one time we ran out of food, so we went. I think it was like two, through 2 or 3 days without food, and like it was hard because I've never gone that much or that long without eating. So it was like I was starving. So when we finally got some food, I was like, oh, thank God. There was one instance, and then another time that I remember it very, very vividly is when um we were walking at like a very deserted area. Like there's like how in the movies they got like the cactus, and it's like all flat land, dirt, and like little hills in there, and hills and stuff like that. And I remember him being somewhere something like that, like that's what it looked like. And um I remember just feeling so tired, like it was so hot too, like there's no shading at all, like everything, like s- just the sun was beaming on you. And I remember just being so weak. I think that was before, that was during the time when we hadn't had anything to eat. So I was like really weak, and I just remember like somebody had to carry me on their shoulders because I was I couldn't keep going. I was like literally dying. And I just remember the guy just kind of like put me up like a backpack, like with my arms around his like shoulders, and he carried me for a while. And I just remember like going in and out of consciousness. I just remember being really hot, dehydrated, and hungry. Another instance, um, another my core memory is being in a same type of environment. I don't know if it was during the same time or not, or if it was like in a different area, but same thing, deserted area, mostly dirt, cactus, and like literally nothing being there. Um, and I just remember looking up, and there was like really dark clouds coming over us, and it started to rain. And because there was so much dirt there, like um, the dirt became mud, and every time you take a step, it felt like you had like concrete on your feet because it was just that heavy. So I just remember struggling really hard and like picking up my legs. Um, it was just really hard. And then I remember that night we were at that place, and I remember just kind of like balling up into a little ball to try to keep warm because at night it got really really cold, and because it rained, it got even more cold because my clothes was wet, and it was just like windy. It was just so bad. Um, at the end of the trip, well, we got stopped to. I just remember we got stopped to. By we were on a like a big bus or something like that, and I remember we got stopped by the Mexican police or something like that, and then I was just like pretending to be asleep in one of the buses. Somebody came up into the bus, and pretty sure it was like like an officer or whatever. And I just lay there with my eyes closed, and I pretended to be asleep. And then the guy like opened because I had something on my covering me. He like uncovered me and looked at me and saw that I was sleeping, and he put the thing back on my face, and he walked out. And then I remember just opening my eyes and just being like, just feeling my heart pounding, being scared, because I was like, I didn't know what that guy was gonna do, but yeah, I remember that. I also remember we got actually stopped by ICE once, and we were in this like jails. It it was weird. Like it was like a big warehouse where they were like taking fingerprints from people, and I remember they didn't take my fingerprints for some reason. I don't know why. But um, yeah, I just remember being like it almost felt like a cage. Um, yeah, I just remember eating like you know how sometimes you can buy like those little bags of like food like stew or whatever. We got something like that to eat. I remember that. Oh, I remember too one time we were like in the like deserted area again, just eating chips and tuna out of the can. I remember that. But yeah, when we got to Arizona, because that's where we crossed from with um finally met up with my sister. We were in Arizona, and I remember we had to like run across uh something like it was like deserted place, dirt and everything, but we like had to run across something. And like I just remember doing that. I remember crawling under a fence. I remember um yeah, one time at night, it was a nighttime where we got caught by ICE. And I would just remember that they were like telling us to hide under bushes and to not look up because they had helicopters that could see that had night vision. So if they seen your eyes glaring, they know that there was people there. I remember that. So we finally got to Arizona, and from there we I think from there they the person drove us to LA, I think, and then from there, so everybody went their own way and everything. I finally met up with my sister after being separated from her. Um, I think it only took us a month to get to the US. Maybe less than a month. I don't know. I can't remember. Um, but yeah. And then when we got to LA, my auntie and her husband picked us up, my uncle. And I just remember them, like I remember my auntie, like I remember her from when I was young, but not really. So it was just like, oh, everything was just really strange to me, and I was still heartbroken that I wasn't gonna go back to my home, and it was just hard for me. I, and then when my auntie and uncle picked us up, they we stayed a night at a hotel. We got up, went to eat, and then we drove for a while. Because I remember they had to drive from LA all the way to San Francisco. And then, yeah, this next part is going to be a little bit hard to talk about, but it is necessary for anybody out there that's been through something like this. So, I only got a few seconds here, but um, So, coming from Guatemala to Mexico to Arizona to LA to San Francisco was one of the most intense, one of the most intense experiences I had. Oh, yeah, one time we were climbing up a hill and I almost fell off a mountain. I slipped because there were like the ground was very rocky right there. So I remember like I slipped, fell on my knees, and with my hands on the ground, like on fours, and I just remember like sliding off. I think the it was like this, so I was like walking right here, and like I fell, and I started to slip right, and God is so good. There was a tree right there at the edge of the mountain, and I slammed myself into that tree. I remember I had a big old bruise right here by my ribs because I literally smacked that tree really hard. But if that tree wasn't there, I would have fell off the mountain. And yeah, like I know God was with me that whole time. Um, I'm so thankful for that. But yeah, I had bruised knees, my wrist. You know, my wrist still hurt till this day, my knees. But yeah, it was horrible. Um, yeah. And then so my auntie drove us to San Francisco to drop us off with to my mom and dad. So we finally got there, and I remember it was this apartment complex in Galley City, and I just remember getting up there and meeting my parents for the first time. To me, it felt like that was the first time I've ever seen them or met them. But they used to call us like back then. They were like coming out with um like you could see each other through. You know how you can FaceTime somebody. They were testing that out back then, so it was still very new. But I just remember seeing them once through a screen, but that was like the only time I've ever seen them. And I mean, of course, I've seen them in pictures and stuff, but like it never really registered to me who they were. And then so then they brought us up there. My auntie and my uncle were living there too. So there was like it was like a room and then a living room, and my auntie was sleeping in the room with her husband, and my parents were staying in the living room, and that apartment was full of demonic activity. I used to think that they were ghosts, but ghosts aren't real. People that die either go to heaven or they go to hell. There is no in between. Um, so yeah, I'll get into that a little bit later. So I remember one time. I remember my parents went to work that night, and I just remember not going to sleep and just breaking down. I was just crying. I got up and we didn't have a bed, so we were sleeping on the floor. It was a carpeted floor, and I just remember they didn't have any beds, so we were sleeping on the ground. And I remember my parents went to work, and I just remember getting up, like pretending to be asleep again. I got up, and then I just started crying. I just started crying so hard because I wanted to go back home, and I was literally somewhere that I had no idea about, and like I didn't know where I was. I had no idea where I was, and I just remember feeling so alone and sad and just depressed. And I just remember looking out the window, and all I was seeing more apartments, the road, and like literally that was all. And I just remember crying, and I was just really really sad, and it was just like it was hard for me. Um, it was really hard for me. But um, one day this is gonna get a little bit graphic here. I'm not going to go into details, um, but I am gonna mention some things that might be disturbing to some people. So viewer discretion is advised from here on. Um, I remember one time, I don't know how soon. I'm pretty sure it was like relatively soon, right after we got there to my parents. I remember one night my mom. Specifically remember that my mom made chicken and white rice. I don't know why I remember that, but you know how at the table there's that the two sides where two people can sit and the two where the single person can sit, right? So I was sitting on one side of the table and my dad was across from me. My mom was on this side with my brother, my younger brother, and my sister was on this side. And I just remember that I don't know what was going on, but I remember my mom or something. I don't know. Like honestly, I don't know if anybody was talking. I think my mom might have been talking. But I just remember sitting there and I looked up and I looked at my dad's face and he was staring at me very menacingly, smiling. Very, very disturbing smile and look in his face as he was staring at me. And I don't know, like I felt my heart just like a wrenching, like disgusting feeling in my chest. Just this, remember how I said that there was like a little humanoid thing at the corner of my auntie's house that I saw, and it looked at me with a grotesque smile. That's what it looked like to me when my dad was staring at me. And that's when it all started. That night, I remember we went to go to bed, and I remember my mom was laying next to my dad, and my dad was laying next to me. And that's when my dad started touching me. It started with him touching me on top of my clothes at first, and like he was just like touching me literally everywhere. Um, I just remember my heart racing and feeling really, really unsafe and scared. Um, and then like it didn't go past that. At first, it was just on top of my clothes. Um, and then later on, it progressed with him putting his hands inside my pants and touching me inappropriately in my private parts. Um, I did not know what was going on. I just remember being really scared and vulnerable. Um, I I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should have told my mom then. I just didn't know what to do. At this point, I was 11 years old when this happened to me, and so I didn't know what to do. Like over time, it progressed with um the things that he was doing to me. At first, it was just touching me all over my clothes, and then it proceeded to be under my clothes. And my mom was ready to give birth at that point. She was getting really close to having my sister. And I remember my dad went to buy paint for the apartment because he wanted the walls to be clean for some reason. I don't know why. But he wanted to paint. He wanted to paint before my mom came back from the hospital, or I think it was before. So he went and got paint, and then a little bit after that, my mom went to have the baby. Yeah, he went. She went to have the baby. So my mom was in the hospital for a while because she had a C-section. So she had to stay in the hospital for a whole week, basically. Um, that's when my dad. I remember one time my dad took me into the room, closed the door behind him, and he locked the door. He pulled down his pants and he told me to get on my knees and open my mouth. And I just remember I was just doing what he was telling me to do. So I just did what he told me. And it was the most disgusting thing I've ever felt. I felt really broken. Um, I was literally thinking to myself, like, why is this happening right now? Like, why is this happening to me? Why am I experiencing this right now? And it was just I had so many questions, and I had so many questions that I was asking to nobody because, well, maybe I was asking the Lord, or maybe I was just asking myself. I honestly don't know, but I just kept asking, why is this happening? And I just remember the only thing that gave me hope was, well, maybe tomorrow will be a better day and this won't happen again. Um, so that happened. So, and then I remember there was times where like yeah, my mom had the baby, and she came back, and um she came back, she had the baby. And I remember my mom asked me that to watch my sister overnight while they went to work. My mom literally went back to work the same day that she got back from the hospital, which is terrible because I already had two kids myself, and both of my babies were C-section, and it's hard to move around after a C-section. It's like so hard to move around. So like I know my mom went to work because my dad was just like a very abusive person, and he did not care about anybody else but himself. So she went back to work the same day she got back from the hospital after she had a C-section. And so she asked me to watch over my little sister. So she just told me, change her diaper and give her a bottle, and that's that. And she showed me how to do it, and I was like, okay. And I remember one time I got up to go make the baby's bottle, and I remember I saw a little boy sitting on the ground, um, and he was crying. But there it was a demonic spirit because, like I said, ghosts ain't real. There's only demonic spirits that they can literally morph into anything. So there was a little boy, and I remember just like I was like half asleep, and I know I saw it because I was walking and I looked down and I seen it just like sitting in a like it was like on its knees crying. It was just weird, but I seen it and I just like kind of like just walked past it and went into the room. Oh yeah, I forgot to say my auntie moved out at some point. Um, yeah, cause my auntie used to live in that apartment with my parents, but because we went there, like when once we got there, they decided to move out because the apartment was so crowded. So my auntie moved out. So and then my parents gave me and my sister that room. So we had like two beds in there, and yeah, that's where the baby was sleeping at, and I went out of the room, yeah, to get her the baby's bottle. And as I was walking back into the room, there was like a an evil spirit sitting down on its knees crying. Looked like a little boy to me. Mm. And I just remember going back to bed and giving the baby the bottle, and that was that. So that was one experience of me seeing an evil spirit in that apartment. And then it's probably demonic spirit, but uh, I remember there was times when my dad would he wouldn't get drunk, but he would start drinking. And I just remember they would get like Bacardi. That was like his thing, Bacardi and Bud Lights. Um, they like they wouldn't get drunk, but like my dad would give my mom something to drink, and she would drink, and then she wouldn't get drunk or anything like that, but they were working all night, so by the time they would go to bed, like they would be tired, really tired, and they would just kind of like just sleep really hard. So my dad, I feel like my dad would do that on purpose. I don't really know, but this is what he would do. He would give us something to drink. Yeah, he would give me alcohol too. I remember drinking a little bit too. Um, but yeah, and then when my mom would go to sleep, he would stay awake and he would, because I think my sister was going to school too. I think they put her in high school because she was already at that age where she had to be in high school, and my little brother would go to school, so it was just me. Um, no, that was before. No, my sister was going to work with them, and then my little brother was going to school. So yeah, my sister and my mom would be asleep, and then um, my little brother was in school, and I was all by myself. And he would always take advantage of the opportunity that everybody else was asleep, and I was up and by myself. And he would always take the opportunity to do something to me every time everybody else was not aware of what was going on or was sleeping or whatever it was. And it was so horrifying. Um, I remember one time I was talking to one of my cousins that was over here too in the US, and I just remember talking to him. I had a computer and I was just talking to him through there. Eventually I started to go to school too. Um, and my sister. So it was nice because then I didn't have to be at home and being touched, but like that didn't stop my dad from touching me and sexually assaulting me. Um, I remember at some point in time, like I don't know what was going on with him. Like I know that there was a demonic influence on him to do what he did because like that's not normal. It's so wrong. He was so abusive to the whole family. Um, he would beat my little brother too. My brother was usually most of the time covering bruises. Um, but to what I was saying, I remember my dad just getting this weird but bursts of violence. Um, Yeah, my dad would get this weird outbursts of violence. Like there was one time he told my mom, he told all of us, okay, told all of us. He said, "I'm gonna go lay down, and then when I wake up, we're gonna go to the mall." Cause they would take us to the park, to the mall, stuff like that, you know. And we were like, okay. And then yeah, he went to sleep, and then he woke up, and he said he had a bad dream. I think my lamp, it's like overheating, so it's gonna be a little bit. Just turn it down. It's very long. Might be overheating. So he went to sleep, and then he got up. He told us he had a bad dream, and then he told us he had a bad dream afterwards. He got up really angry, and I remember I was standing. You know how there's a door frame, right? I was standing. This is the door frame right here, right? And I was standing right there, and I just remember my dad sucker punched me, not in the eyeball or anything like that, but he punched me like right here. He punched me in my face, and I just remember like lifting up the air and falling and landing on my butt. And then I remember uh, it hurt right here, and then I started bleeding because of where he punched me. Okay, so my little lamp right here is overheating, so I'm gonna have to let it cool off for a second. Yeah, he punched me in my face for no reason because he said he had a nightmare about me or something. And yeah, he just decided it would be a great idea to punch me in the face and yelled at everybody and then was like, "Yeah, we're not going anywhere anymore." And it was just like, what just happened? Like, yeah. Um, there was one time my dad wanted to sexually abuse me, and because there wasn't like a really good place that he thought was a good place to do it in, he took me out of the house he grabbed me by my hand, took me out of the house, and he went to we had like a van, like a green van, and he took me to that car, and he put me in the back seat, and he and then he went into the car too, and he was all looking around, making sure that nobody was around, like watching us or whatever. And I just remember being in the back seat, like, what are we doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, stop. Um, and then he was all like trying to touch me, and I think he realized that that was like a really bad idea because he stopped, took me out of the van, and we walked back to the house. Um, so yeah, that was like, I don't know. I remember I was saying that I was talking to my cousin one time, and he was talking, we were talking, and this is gonna sound kind of gross, and it is. Um, but my cousin was older than me. He was like, I guess you would say like flirting with me and trying to make me feel like, I don't know. I guess I was just looking for love. I wanted to be loved because I wasn't getting it from my parents. Um, and I just remember talking to him through text, and my dad found out, and I remember that day that he found out, it was like the most scariest thing. Um, for one, yeah, I realized that he was wrong because he was older than me and I was just a kid. I was 11 years old at that time, 11 or 12. So I was really young, but I was just looking for somebody to tell me that they loved me, and like I wanted to feel loved. And I know people are probably gonna comment, "Oh, you're disgusting" or whatever. Like, I don't care what anybody has to say, like. But anyways, I was talking to my cousin. My dad found out, and my dad beat the crap out of me. He literally, like, I felt like I was gonna die that day. He like threw me around. He like threw the laptop on on me, like he threw it out, like he yeah, it was just the most traumatic thing ever. And I just remember being so scared, and I just remember my mom screaming, telling me to stop, and my dad just wouldn't stop hitting me, and I literally just felt like I was gonna die. Cause he was like he wasn't a very tall person, but he was really really like big, as in chunky, big, and like he wasn't as fat as he used to be. I can't say that I remember specifically how he beat me up, but like I just remember him throwing me around. Um, yeah, like I think I blocked that out of my memory or something because I just know that he beat me up really bad and just being afraid for my life. Um, and yeah, um, I remember for a long time my mom didn't know what was going on, but at some point, I don't know. I think my sister said that he was doing the same thing to her. He was sexually assaulting her. And I remember my sister actually said something one time. And I remember my mom being like crying, just like, "What are you doing?" You know? And I remember my sister was in the bath or in the shower crying. And I was kind of just standing outside. But I remember my dad threatened me with my life and my mom's and basically everybody's. And like he told me if I told anybody that he was gonna kill us all and all this and that. And I just remember that I wanted to say something to, and I was just really scared to say something. And then I mustered up the courage and told my mom that he was doing it to me too. And then she just started crying and just like screaming, saying, "What are you doing?" And I remember my dad slapped my mom across her face really hard. And I remember seeing that, and just like in that moment, I remember just my mom said, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You need to stop," or something like that, or like something like that. And then my dad told her to stay out of it, to mind her business, because he did what he wanted. And so, yeah, after seeing my dad slap my mom the way that he did, like, I literally sat there and said that I was gonna allow him to abuse me so he wouldn't hurt my mom or my siblings. Um, so that was hard because that was just hard. Like, I really thought that my mom knowing was gonna make him stop doing that, but he didn't. But I'm gonna stop here because it's been 40 minutes now, and I got my kids to take care of and things around the house. But thank you for listening. This is part two. I will be recording a second sometime tomorrow. So stay tuned.